So we're recording again. Okay, so let me start right back back here, because this has been really about the coolest thing lately. I know I didn't mention to it before, but when I took the boat from the yacht club, it had been plugged into shore power, and it's got a regular standard three battery charger. Excuse me. And brought it back over to my place, and when I hooked it up, it tripped the GFI, the ground fault interrupter. So that is kind of underwhelming, because you need that when you're down on the water. It keeps you from getting electrocuted. So kind of important to me. My whole dock is GFI protected, but I kept plugging it in and it kept tripping, and I started to do some preliminary wiring checks and stuff on the cord and so forth, because the cord's kind of old. Well, don't tell OSHA, but what I did was I ended up just running it off a straight 120 receptacle without the GFI. And then for my tools and stuff, I bought a separate GFI extension cord, and that got me back and protected. In the area where you're really worried is when you're out hanging over the side of the boat and stuff with a hand tool and stuff. You don't want to get yourself knocked out. But anyway, long story short, which is too late now, the other day we had some kind of funky weather and stuff. I said, well, I'm going to go in and start pulling out wiring. So over here where you see the battery selector switch and stuff, I pulled out probably about a half a mile of wires that go to various pieces of electronics and stuff that aren't even on the boat anymore. I still got quite a bit of work to do up in here. You can see those dingleberries hanging down, and a 12-volt receptacle there against the bulkhead, and an antique Loran machine, in case anybody's interested, vintage, and probably still works. I'm ready to make you a deal on that. Okay, so anyway, as I was busy, let me get back here in the main stateroom to show you where else we did some work. So none of these instruments work anymore. So there was another big bundle of wire. So all I did was basically pull all that wire down and start to essentially remove it from the boat. And when I started that, it got me back over here to the main instrument distribution panel. And the light's kind of bad here, so let me get in there. Okay, so what it ended up being is I traced the AC wires coming from the port side. There's the external connector there. I traced those wires over, and the color coding and everything was correct. As soon as it got into the back of this panel, since they had done a lot of work and put in a generator and all that stuff after the fact, they spliced into the black and the green and the red and just ran red wires. Everything was red. And lo and behold, what happened is when you get back on the back of this AC panel, there's a neutral bus and there's a ground bus. And what they had done is swap the neutral and the ground. And that was popping the GFI. So I switched that back over, got that squared away, plugged it in, turned it on, nothing blew up or burned down, and lo and behold, I'm back on the GFI. So that's the happy ending to that story. Still got tons of work to do with all these wires. Can't get to it here. I've got it all covered up with crap. Been working on the VHF radio, so I know for a fact they had a brand new VHF antenna lead installed, and when the mast was off of the boat, and I had a big bundle of wire that would have reached from, don't make everybody dizzy, from there, the base of the mast, under the floorboards and stuff, and back up into this area, and then into the back of the VHF. I don't know how it happened, I don't know where it happened, but I've lost 35 feet or more of that RG58 coax. I had it bundled up, right? Stop it from hanging over the ground and stuff at the yacht club. And then when we went to move the mast, I stuck that back up in the base of the mast. And when we stepped the mast, we went in there and pulled all that stuff out. But it's mysteriously disappeared. And the offshoot of that is that the 25 watts end up being about 12 watts by the time it goes through all that crap. I have very, very poor VHF coverage. I can talk to Destin, which is about 8 miles as a crow flies, but it's coming through very weak and stuff. Bought a temporary antenna, one of these things from West Marine to make sure the radio was working, and of course it is. But you're, with a little stubby like that, you're not going to get any coverage. So the bottom line on that is I'm trying to figure out where the big wad of wire is, and I'm going to go ahead and cut through and make a small access hole, in the side of the mast. Pull the wire out. If I can untie it, which I don't think I'm going to be able to do, I'll cut it and put a splice right there. Now, a splice is not good, but it's certainly better than having a big RF trap, which is what I've got now, because the electrons are bumping into each other as it tries to get out of that wad of wires on its way up the mast and down the mast. Now, that's a little bit frustrating. I bought a camera, a little USB camera. I mean, these things are absolutely fantastic. This one's got a real stiff coax, so you can kind of form it and stuff. Like $18 on Amazon. Actually, I've got another one somewhere which I can't seem to find. Okay, so anyway, that's I guess the technical challenge is to figure out where the hell that wire went. I'm afraid, and this just came to me. If you look right down here, you'll see a green and kind of a teal and a lime green parachute cord. That runs up the mast, and what that is, it's a big chunk of foam, the spongy foam, like like a foam, like a cushion. And what I did at the marina is that I got a big long PVC pipe, and I pushed that foam about halfway up the mast to the cross trees, just about. And the idea there is to lessen the amount of slap inside the mast, because all of those wires are not in a pipe. Like, they should be in a PVC pipe, but they're not. And I wasn't going to go back and do that. So the idea there is to essentially halfway up, looking way up there. I don't know if you can be. Yeah, there you go. The cross trees. There's a big foam, and so all that foam basically does is cut the travel in half of where the. But this is my new fear. I'm wondering if when I went and jammed that damn thing in there, that I didn't really realize it, and I was pushing that big wad of wire all the way up into the mast. I don't think that happened. I don't think it could have happened, but you just don't know. We won't know until we find the wad of wire. And my old buddies in the test wing used to tell me it's always the last place you look. So we're not done looking yet. All right, so just to finish up, this is where we're at. We've gone and we've put this insulation. We've tightened up. We've reinstalled all the ledger boards up here, which is what the paneling screws into. And then up in this area is where the headliner goes. And then out here, you put a nice big piece of trim. And let me show you what happened over here on this side. So, in the repair process, the vinyl here is just so brittle, and this has been soaked and soaked and soaked for years with water, and it's all shrunk up. So you see right here we got a big old gap, and I'm not going to be able to bridge that with the trim that goes back on. So rather than have a big ugly scar there, I'm going to end up having to replace this 4-foot section of vinyl. And like I said, hopefully I can get something that will match pretty closely. Okay, so back to this. Here are some of my panels. You see the white on this side, black on the back, white on the front. These are already cut, all ready to go back in. They're going to be screwed in on the top up here, and then there's a little groove down here on the bottom right here that basically is just a perfect fit for that. So it just kind of goes in there like that, and then you tie it in at the top, and that holds it in place. And then the header, or the headliner is on. It's on. Let me go back and show you. It's on a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, which is pretty nice. See, there's all those guys. They still need to be cleaned up, but you can see the plywood. And essentially, those just screw in with the little dress screws, hold them in place. All right, so I think that's kind of like where we're at right now. Hopefully, I don't think I'll get to it today. Mother's Day, we got to go up and have some steak dinner. But that'll be coming shortly. I'm gonna stay with the original trim. This guy here goes back up. Let me get back here like that. Goes back up there, right there, and covers that thing in the forepeak. But I mean, it's really coming together. One more quick look. I'll show you where what started this whole thing. I don't think it showed up very well in the first video. I'll jump down there now and see if I can highlight it for you. Okay, so this is the base of the mast, or the socket, or whatever you want. It's deck, what they call keel step. So there's a large amount of fiberglass, solid fiberglass, woven roving, and all that stuff is I mean really welded into the hull structure. So it's a massive piece of fiberglass, and that is what takes the compression load from the mast here. So it's a stiffener for the cabin top. This guy here. Rain comes down inside the mast invariably. Most of the leaks I've got plugged up and stuff, but it's always seeping in here like that. When it comes down inside the mast, it runs down inside the mast and comes out down here like this. And this guy here used to be waterproof, but not quite enough. So what would happen right here, there's going to be another piece of ply here with some fiberglass and stuff. It would just sit in here and stand and stand and stand and stand. And eventually it rotted away. And you can see all the way down, a pointer of some kind. You see here. Hold on. Alright, so right down in here, that's where the 3/4 inch plywood bulkhead fits. There's two pieces of 3/4 inch that are sistered together, and then they're laminated to this guy right here, and that runs all the way up and forms the back. Essentially, if you look at where that tube is at, there's going to be a piece of wood that basically replaces that. So that piece of wood, is notched around this guy and notched around this guy. I still got to take out over here. I got to remove this. We've decided invariably that we're going to take this freezer out, and we're going to replace that with an AC DC refrigerator with a little ice cube tray in it for the kind of day sailing and weekending and stuff we're doing. The deep freeze is a big waste of space, time, weight, and it's right now limiting access to getting to the area there that needs to be repaired. Okay, so back to this. When we go back in, we'll be basically forming up you know, basically cutting out a pattern that a saddle essentially that this guy sits in. Once that's all replaced, then we're going to go back in here. We're going to re-glass all of this, turn it back into a watertight containment area, and then we're going to do what wasn't done previously. We're going to drill what they call limber holes. So we're going to drill a drain hole that comes through from the fiberglass all the way through the wood and sticks all the way out, you know, maybe this far, and goop that in there with epoxy. So the deal there is that thing fills up or gets water in it, that water will drain out through that pipe and not stand in here and not soak the rest of the wood and stuff. It'll basically allow it to dry out and go way down in there to the bilge, which is pumped periodically with the bilge pump. So that is a huge deal. Work-wise, it's probably about a week and a half, I guess, if I stay at it pretty regular. I like glassing, and I like cutting wood and trimming, and I like doing epoxy work and stuff like that. So looking forward to that. It's a lot of fun. But from a structural standpoint, that is the main hold up here with just about anything. That needs to be done and dried and weathered, weatherproofed and stuff before any of the nicety stuff, you know, fixing this and that and installing instruments and all kinds of junk like that. That's all going to come later. But you can see over here too, see, this is results of that bulkhead that essentially up here, right where you see the bright spot, right below that port light, and then right over there to where the outer hull is. That whole seam right there was pouring water in, and had been for quite some time. And it would run down where the silver thing is, and then down back behind this settee, and then under there, and it would get into this area here, and this area here is a big giant void with no drainage. So the water would sit and sit and sit and sit until it finally rotted away all of these bulkheads. So when we go back in there and glass in the new replacements and stuff, you can bet each one of them is going to have a nice drainage back into the bilge. And let me close by saying, going on the Endeavour website and looking and stuff, you hint around about these leaks and stuff like that. It turns out, I guess, for the 37s, this area here is a deadly problem, and most all of them are suffering from rot on this main floor beam here. So if you're getting ready to buy, do yourself a favor, pull up those floorboards, get access in there, and take yourself a nice sharp knife, pocket knife. See if you can jam it into that wood, because if it's good solid plywood, you can't go in more than a 1/16 of an inch or something. But if it's rotten, it's going to bury itself, and you're going to be right here where I've been for the last 4 or 5 months. And believe me, if I was having to do this crap in a yard, we would be way underwater. There's no way you could recoup. I mean, it'd be nice to have a nice boat when you're done, but I mean, if you ever had a thought about reselling or not losing your butt, you wouldn't be able to do it, because this is cost effective for me, because I'm doing all the work and I own the boat slip. So, and just a word of caution: make sure and check. You can just go right here and pull this guy up. It comes up. That's access to the shower drain and this and that. And you'll be able to see, normally there's a bulkhead right here, and that bulkhead itself did not have any draining going down into the bilge where it's supposed to go. Instead, it was standing water, and it's rainwater. So I mean, that's even worse, because it's probably, I think salt water supposedly rots a little bit less, more preservative in it. But anyway, so it's been a long long video. We've gone on 19 minutes now, so I hope you stick with me. I hope that you are going to get some use out of this, and talk to the Endeavour ownership group and stuff, and we're talking about putting together a YouTube page, so maybe some of these videos and stuff will migrate over to that. I just hope that hope everybody's endeavors, no pun intended, aren't as logistically demanding as this old girl is, but we're getting there slowly but surely. Thanks a lot. Talk to you next time.